Hello, my name's Andy Wilson. Welcome to my channel, Silica Valley. If you like what you hear, please click that subscribe button and like the video. Now, 2 years ago, my wife Carol and I decided against moving house and instead invested some cash in remodeling. In this video, I want to tell you about some lessons we learned about building our own bar in the house, including what we did well and what we would do differently. I'm hoping that if you're considering doing this, it'll help you decide whether to and how to do it. If you have a question I don't cover in this video, leave a comment and I'll try to answer it as best as I can. Now, should you build a bar in your house? Well, it depends. It's a big investment, especially if, like me, you need the skills of tradespeople to get it done. Skilled people aren't cheap, but in the end, we think it was worth it. The main reason we built our bar is that we're very social. We don't have kids, we're very lucky to have great friends, and we love to entertain them. I can tell you that we're really happy that we did it. We love our bar and so do our friends. It's always a treat to see people in here. And we've been inspired to do it by seeing bars in other people's houses, and in turn other friends of ours have been inspired to do the same thing by coming here. In this video, I'm going to talk you through some key decisions we took right from the very beginning, which helped us to realise our vision. There are 5 in total, so stick with me. Number 1, budget. Unless you have unlimited resources, you have to make a budget. I used a simple Excel spreadsheet, which we updated with items as we thought of them. This is super important in the planning stage. Add items to that list, even if you don't yet know how much they will cost. This way, it also becomes a sort of workflow or an ideas board. We'd stand in here, this was a garage once and then an office, and just talk about what we wanted. Each time something new came up, we just added it to the spreadsheet. Items were deleted and added and modified many times as we planned. Now, once you have a fairly complete list, you can now start pricing items up more accurately. But the takeaway here is to decide the budget first and then see what's achievable. We were doing a lot of work in the house and we had allocated a total of £10,500 for the bar. But bear in mind that the garage had already been converted into an office about 15 years ago, so we weren't starting completely from scratch. Of that 10,500, we figured to spend up to 3,500 on the actual counter, the bar itself. With the rest, we installed lights, a floor, decorated, added music, don't forget the wiring, the building work, and an upgrade to the bathroom. Now, you may or may not be thinking that £7,000 on top of the counter itself isn't much to do all those other things, and if you are, you'd be right. The temptation to overspend is really overwhelming. Don't get me wrong, I know £10,500 is a lot of money and a decent budget, but it's not a lot of money for what we were doing. We had to make compromises, and each of these was made easier by the fact we'd planned everything out in the spreadsheet. I bought less expensive lights, I repurposed music from elsewhere in the house, and we managed to source the counter at a slightly better price because we had to. We overspent on budget by about £500 in the end. 5 to 10% overspend on a project like this, I would say, should be avoided, but also should be expected. So, key decision 1, set a budget and stick to it. Key decision number 2, think about the space. I spent hours looking at images on Pinterest. The fact that you're here means you probably have too. There are some amazing home bars. They kind of fit into 2 categories for me. Bars which were beyond our wildest dreams and bars which didn't feel quite right to us. For example, how do you feel about this look? Or this one? It's great to have all of these images available, but for us, they were most useful for seeing what we definitely didn't want and for ruling out ideas. What helped us the most was actually just standing in the space and thinking about it. We spent hours in here talking about how we thought people would move about in the space, where they'd stand, where they'd sit, how they would work with the bar. And here are some questions for you to think about while you contemplate the space. 1. How many people will be here at any one time? We thought about the most there would be and also the average. We figured that the most would be about 24, maybe a couple of times a year, but on average it would be more like 6, including us. 2, do people want seats? If you're out in the town, oftentimes you'll be standing at the bar or standing elsewhere, so did we really need lots of seating? We decided in the end to have minimal seating, and we used these simple stools which can easily move around. We definitely wanted bar stools. They add a first impression on entry which really announces that this is a bar. And third, is it service or self-service? We're building a bar, but are we planning to spend all night serving drinks? Well, no. We want to have a party too. We wanted our guests who had brought their own drinks to be able to store them in the bar and be able to serve themselves. This meant we needed more fridge space, and we also decided that if they were serving themselves, it should feel like they're in a bar. That then becomes part of the experience. This is what convinced us to go with a serving counter and a back bar. Many times during the night, a friend will be taking a shift right here. And 4, to disco or not to disco. It's late in the night, everybody's a few drinks in and they're getting in the party mood. The music gets louder, the voices get louder, and people want to party. Lighting makes a big difference to that party atmosphere. I'm serious. And if you're planning to party in your bar, you should take it seriously too. We wanted to have choices about the lighting and be able to change it through the night. I planned the lights well in advance and ran the wires above the ceiling. I bought DMX lights, which basically means they can be linked together but controlled either separately or together, and also remotely. They're wired to this desk here. I can't state this enough. It's a lot less expensive and complicated than you would think to do good disco lighting. Now I can simply press a button and the lighting in the room changes. Key decision number 3, the actual bar, the serving counter. Now there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of prefabricated options for the bar. If you Google home bar, you'll be faced with hundreds of prefabricated choices. Now, one of these might work for you. If our room had been smaller, we might have done that ourselves. But there are compromises in going down this route. They're usually a fixed size. Some can be customised a little at an additional cost, but most cannot. We wanted a serving counter combined with a back bar, and this limited our choices even further. We realised that we needed a custom bar on a budget. I want to tell you about a mistake which took up a lot of time and effort for no reward, and that was to talk with kitchen and bedroom suppliers about it. Now, they have the expertise for sure, but the materials they're geared up for are kitchen and bedroom materials, and all of the suggestions they made use these. None of the designs look like a bar. Storage, yes. High quality, yes. Feels like a bar, no. What did we do in the end? Well, I downloaded some free computer-aided design software and learned to use it. It wasn't easy, at least I didn't find it easy, but it was worth it. With the right software, you can use actual measurements and visualize as you design. I was even able to add wall coverings, lights, and other features and change them, which really helped. Finally, I was able to print out drawings with the actual measurements and specification, which is what I used to get quotes from woodworkers for the build. Now, I have slightly above average computer skills, I'd say, and you may not feel confident enough to do this, in which case I'd suggest finding a family member who's willing to spend some time, because it really, really helped. For the front bar, I wanted a lower counter to prepare drinks and then the serving counter to serve them on. This means all of the clutter is kept out of sight down here, but the beautifully prepared drinks really shine on the top counter. And I made a small mistake here because the lower counter is actually quite narrow. On reflection, I wish I'd pushed the front out a couple of more inches to give me more room to work here. For the back bar, we needed storage below for glasses, bowls and whatnot, and a decent space above to store our collection of liquor and cocktail making stuff. We also had a coffee machine to repurpose from the old kitchen. This thing is 15 years old, and we wanted simple shelves above the counter purely for display. Finally, to connect the front and the back, we have this area with a sink, which is super convenient. We can do everything in here. So when we thought about the serving counter, we wanted a front and a back bar. We wanted room for bar stools in front and the height required for bar stools in front. And we wanted plenty of storage for our glasses, our drinks, and any drinks that our guests bring along, which they want to drink during the night. Decision number 4, beer taps. Now, you might not think that beer taps are a big decision, but we wrestled with this question. A bar should have beer taps, right? In fact, the 2 additions that people have suggested to us are 1, a television, and 2, beer taps. Now, we definitely don't want a TV in here. In fact, now we've had the bar for a while, we really think that a TV playing either sport or music videos would take away from rather than add to the atmosphere. Beer taps would be great, but they need maintenance and some infrastructure. We just bought a decent commercial beer fridge, and that has worked really, really well. Another option you may have seen is the tabletop dispensers, which you put small kegs into. They only hold 2 litres most of the time, sometimes 5, and to be useful you'd need several of these kegs pre-refrigerated and ready to go. It just wasn't worth it for us, and the beer fridge does a great job. We have half of it for beer and half of it for everything else. Before a party where people are going to bring their own drinks, I take out a big chunk of my own stock to make room for everybody else's favourite tipples, and they put them right in there. Here's the last one, decision number 5. Make sure you've got somewhere to store everything else. Let's say you convert, like we did, an entire room into a bar. Where will all the other stuff live? The stuff that was in here before? Make sure you think about that. It's tempting to use the room for storage when it's not in use as a bar. I wouldn't do this. We talked about this in advance and threw things away we no longer needed. It sounds nuts because this is a decent sized house, but one of the things we lack in here is actual storage space. We both work from home, so that's 2 rooms used up as offices straight away. There is a simple pleasure in going into Bumbles, and that's what we call the bar, sitting down and just the 2 of us having a drink and a chat for an hour or so, a couple of evenings a week. Even when we're not entertaining, just put the music on, choose one of the light settings and chat. If there's junk in here, the room becomes a lot less attractive. So if you're converting a room to be a bar, make a plan for how it will remain that way all of the time and enjoy it whenever the mood takes you. In summary, if you're on the fence, I'd go for it. We've had Bumbles for about 1.5 years, 2 years maybe. It has all kinds of knickknacks in here, some bought by us and some kindly given to us by friends who enjoy being in here as much as we do. That's it for now. We'll see you next time on Silica Valley.